Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, I hear you. Do you hear me?
Yes, I do. Nice to meet you.
Hi.
Thank you for taking
Likewise.
the time. Your
No problem.
movie is so beautiful. Uh, I was just fascinated um, by how you did it. I had never seen an animation with the lines that flowed so amazingly and morphed so dramatically.
hmm
So is that a practice that other animators use, or how did that come about?
I don't think it's something other animators use. It took me, phew, not full time, but it took me 7 years to get there. So it
Wow.
was not something that easy, but I had it in mind from the start. I wanted to kind of paint with the air. That was the goal. I had to do a lot of experiments to get there and to get that look and feel that it really felt like painting with air.
Mhm.
Um, so looking back at it, once you did develop the technique, it doesn't seem that complex anymore. But that's always in retrospect, you know. That's like kind of logic, I guess.
Uh-huh.
Um, but yes, it's something. It really is in that sense experimental, like most of my films are. But
Mhm.
I like to create and develop new ways of visualizing things, or moving things, or both. So that's I guess that's like the joy of playing around. One hand artistically, and on the other hand technically as well. So the technique becomes a creative instrument, and yeah, I love doing that. So I think that's the reason that I started to make this film.
So had you storyboarded the film before you were able to figure out how all of the lines work and merge and
hmm No, that's like I almost never make storyboards, or always for the same reason, that because the films are experimental, it's hard to predict how the images will work and what they're going to look like. In this case, well, it was kind of I did. It was not really a storyboard, but you can say that the film exists of two layers. The first layer is just like plain 3D characters and objects, like you see in many movies, that move and that do their thing throughout the film. And that layer I need for the particle lines and trails to react upon. So to let them move around the objects, to let them bounce against the objects. So all this whole first layer is existing in the second one as well, but it's turned invisible. So it's just the lines and the particles that remain. So in that sense, that first layer helps also to decide composition, edit, etc., rhythm. At the same time, when I was making this first layer, I had to adjust a lot later, because it turned out that most of the movements and the the pace was far too fast for for the final version, because your eyes and your brains need much more time to understand what you're looking at, as in a traditional animation.
Mhm. So is that computer generated? Like how did you have to write a program that would allow you to merge the lines like that, or how does
Mm.
that come about?
No, it is all computer generated. That's true. I use the plugin. It's called X Particles with
Mhm.
Cinema 4D, and X Particles is really, it's funny because it's an instrument, a tool that was kind of developed in those 7 years. So when I started, it was a really simple plugin with not a lot of possibilities, and at the end, and still now, it's got a lot of more detailed functions, but it's a matter of finding the right parameters. And you must think of like, because a particle stream is just like a fountain of little points that you can spray against an object or into a direction, and that spray of little points you can translate into lines, so then it becomes visible. And then if you point them against an object, then you can let them bounce against the object, or you let them surround the object, and in that sense, suddenly the object can become visible. But the problem is that to make the object visually understandable, you really have to take away a lot of noise as well, because if an object is surrounded by a lot of lines, at the end you only see a bunch of lines, and you don't recognize exactly what the object is. So in reality, I had to change a lot of parameters, like you have turbulence, you have gravity, you have speed, and well, you have many more, and also delete a lot of particles so that you can see the object from well, you could see it very well from one side. It's funny because if I had many scenes, I had a result, and I thought like, well, this is not what I want, and then you change the camera, you look at it from another angle, and then suddenly you do pardon, understand what's going on, which is why I had to change a lot the chain of actions and movements in the film. But it's it was fun. It was kind of interesting, but like long.
Yeah, 7 years, that's amazing. And then also the use of color, I thought, especially like in the red, and how did you work with the colors? Like, did you change the colors? How did you choose how you would go from the blue to the black? And
well, that was kind of a very simple concept. I'm moving into the shade because it's a bit hot in the sun. It was I thought like very simple. Air is something that for me, if I think about what color would air have, if you could see air, then it would be blue. So that's why I chose blue. And then I thought maybe it's interesting to make a difference in air temperature. So hot air, warm air is red, and cool air is blues. And that's actually what defined the colors. And then I wanted it because it's the whole story is like plays in a kind of especially before the storm, into kind of a heavy before the thunderstorm ambience. So I wanted to have this little bit of like reddish warm color that would make it more heavy and warmer. So that was a combination, and then that those colors kind of fitted with that. So that's the story behind the colors. Well, the metro is different because they're in the metro scene. I decided to turn it around and to make it kind of negative, just to introduce a different kind of visual for a short period. Otherwise, you're just looking at the same thing all the time, and it worked very well also with this idea that you are in a tunnel, that you're underground.
And it seemed like transportation and freedom, like the train and the amazing car and the bird flying and the tornado. I mean, there was the umbrella. So was transportation something that you had in mind, like morphing into those kinds of things in terms of like either freedom or the flow, or what was?
Yeah, I understand. It was more like I never looked at it like that, but it's true. There's a lot of transportation in there. I guess it is because I was looking for scenes in which air becomes visible and plays a role. So in a static scene, there's not much moving around, and then the air would be not very interesting. So I guess I've written a scenario in which there was a lot of displacement of things. I had long lists of everything that you could think of, like and those things that are not in the film, but I thought that it would be interesting. Like for instance, a hand dryer. Or that didn't make it to the film, but the hair dryer did. So there's a lot of these different elements, like the music instruments as well. So I had long lists of things to choose from to build the scenario. Of course, you can't choose everything, and of course, the little scenario that is there, the story that is there, should held up as well. So you can't put everything in. But I think that's the reason that there's a lot of transportation. Transportation means also like air, moving air.
And it's interesting also, like just in this time with COVID and like every breathing and it seemed like it had even more relevance in terms of like the way that air spreads out with all of the that people have
Yeah.
talked and warned people. It seemed like it was like even more relevant, just showing that.
Yeah, especially in this metro scene, in the subway where everybody is like breathing, and you
Yes.
have this kind of still environment, and that's where exactly that's true. Yes, I've had that command before. Yes, it is funny. Yes, of course
Uh-huh.
it wasn't intentionally because I didn't know that, but it was like yeah.
I know. I was like, this is like the warning. It should be like
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You could,
on
yeah,
a sign.
you could kind of see it like that. Yes, it's funny. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Well, funny. It's not really
Right,
funny, but.
right, exactly. But definitely timely. And what
Hmm.
about the music? How did the music come about?
um, that's like I almost always work with the same composer till now. He's in Rotterdam, and well, at the time when I'm living in France now for 15 years, but before that I was also in Rotterdam. And we worked. He just had a studio beneath mine, and he was a friend of mine as well. So we were working together for long already. That means that working on distance is something that is not really a problem for us. And the music has been, but especially the sound design has been very important from the start, because you can't, if a film is more experimental or more difficult to understand, in the sense you don't always know what you're looking at, then sound helps enormously to understand what you're looking at. So also for me, if I make a scene with a lot of lines, and for me it's important that the audience understands what it is. Not all the time, because I also like to be on the limit of abstraction and reality. But if it's like important, then I can't test it on myself because I know already what it is. But I need the sound design immediately there, and the music to support the narration and the communication, and therefore I have to have it from the beginning, because if you have a lot of lines moving and underneath you have the sound of a car like accelerating, then you understand that is what you should be looking at, and then suddenly things fall in place. But if you don't have that sound, you might want to show an image that is much more realistic than necessary.
Hmm.
And I like to be on the balance of abstract and figurative.
So did
So
you give
therefore,
him pieces at different times, or like did you give him the completed? How did you work
no,
together?
no. We almost always, well, it goes both ways. In this case, it was funny that, of course, because I had this first layer of the film in real animation, I could already give him that to work on. Although it was not completely finished just at once, he already started before in bits and pieces, and that's how we often work. Then he sends me some music. I tried with the animation, or I want some changes. He changes it. I change the animation. So it's a little bit like a game of tennis. Like we bounce the ball back and to each other to come to the final result. So it's like it's kind of a long process.
Hmm.
So it's actually sound and music. The development of sound and music starts when almost exactly at the same time when I start making the film. Not in the early stage where I'm experimenting still with the visuals. So not in the first years in this case, but like the last, when I really started producing, then yes, from the start, we worked together.
And you're also an installation artist. Is that correct?
Yeah,
Uh-huh. So
yeah, yeah.
how do you balance the two roles? Like, are you working, like, are there sometimes you're working on multiple projects, or you like to work on
Uh-huh.
one thing
No, it's like it's always it's a big mess in that sense. I have to do There's a lot of. I like doing things at the same time, although it's not always wise to do that. But it's like kind of interesting. Um, the installation project is called Time Shells, and that one I started 5 years ago, and now it has its first exhibition just till October. So that was something completely new for me, because I was like, after having made films for many years, my first film, like Barcode, I finished in, I think, 2001. I wanted something that I could finish a little bit quicker, and something that was more tactile, and something more physically present, not something that you have to go to cinema to and just sit in an audience and watch, or on video, but something that you could see, watch, and look around. A more physical present, I guess. But in combination with animation. So then 3D printing came along, and that was like such a great invention, because suddenly all the objects that I can make, the virtual worlds that I can make in my computer, you can turn into real things, and then you can reproject animation, light sources, and shadows on the same objects, as if exactly the same as in the computer, the virtual world that exists in the computer, and that gives a really very strange effect, and that is lovely to play with. So yes, I do a lot of things at the same time. Now we're working on the virtual reality version of Flow. So and that's also amazing, if you like, because you're really, if you have this helmet on, and you're in this world with all these lines floating and flying around you, it becomes even more real. You're really in the air. So it's
Oh, that's so cool.
yeah, it is. I'm very much looking forward to continue with it. We're still in developing stage, but I hope we can get it to production the end of the year, beginning of next year. Then should still at least take a year, I guess, to finish, but okay. But it's lovely to play with.
And are you all working on a new film as well, or is the virtual reality your next project?
The virtual reality is the next project, and also some new installations. I hope I can find other venues to expose and to make one or more two installations. At the same time, yes, I do. I'm not working on a film yet, but I do have an idea. So it's like something I would really want to do, but it's always like at the end of the production of a film, then new ideas start coming up, new concepts for a next one. And I have that, and I think it's like, I really like it, but it's again very experimental, and it's going to take a long time, but it's something I'm really looking forward to. But I shouldn't fall into the pitfall that I'm doing too many things at the same time. So I must keep it in my drawer for a little longer, I guess.
I just want to say thank you. I mean, it's a beautiful film. I just like so fascinated watching it. I had never seen anything like it, and it just was just so like it was just like it just made you feel so good, and it was just also challenging, like in terms of just the incredible skill that went into it. So we're really excited to be showing that at the festival.
Thank you. Well, I'm glad you do.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate your time and talking to you. And
well, thank you too for inviting me, because it's like with all these festivals not being for real, it's like nice to at least to have some contact and to
I know. It's really, it's so disappointing for us all. Really.
Yes, it is. Like, yes, I'm still a little bit lucky that my film came out last year and not this year, because that would have been worse still. But,
I know. Yeah. I know. Well, thank you. And I look forward to seeing more.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Okay. Good luck. Bye-bye.